I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC Mexico City, taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from the event, and the thumbnail gave it away again in this video. Loner Kavanagh, biggest stock riser in this card, coming through as a decent underdog here at plus 170, taking out Brandon Moreno by decision. Just a really good performance here, and what an opportunity to seize. Took this fight on short notice, replacing Asu, fights Moreno in Mexico City. Coming off that loss to Charles Johnson, there was a lot sort of riding on this because if Kavanagh lost again, that would be a tough setback for him, losing back-to-back fights like this. And here he is taking out a former UFC champion in Brandon Moreno. Really good performance. The stats back this up as well too, especially that second round. You look at Loner Kavanagh in blue here, a lot of good shots, outlanding Brandon Moreno, 97-79. Also a lot of leg kicks that landed, 19 of those, 18 body shots. Just a really good overall range. And I don't think Moreno did a whole lot here. I'll talk about him a little bit later on the stock report, but this was a big moment here. It was a main event. It was in Mexico. Kavanagh, absolutely biggest stock riser on this card, especially if you look at the context of the flyweight division, kind of going through a bit of a transition period. Joshua Van is the new champ. We got Tyra fighting him next. It's sort of a youth movement, and I think Kavanagh's part of that at 26 years of age. So huge win there for Loner Kavanagh, coming through as an underdog in the main event. Okay, second biggest stock riser on this card is David Martinez. Now I know Martinez was heavily favored here, and he got the win. It's just the fact now he's taken out two ranked opponents, right? Rob Font, now Chito Vera. Vera's been on quite the slide. We'll talk about him a little bit later too. But again, in that nice age range here, 27 years old. Would have been nice to see him get the finish, but Chito Vera has never been finished in the UFC to my knowledge. So tough task to sort of do that there. But if we look at the stats on his end for this fight, you'll see there a little bit closer fight, but still getting it done. But actually, I shouldn't even say that because he outlanded him 71-42 here. So yeah, really good by David Martinez in this fight, 71-42 overall. Gotta like what he's doing. Again, they keep going back to that Mexico market. He's going to be someone you'll see on a lot of those cards going forward. Big win there for David Martinez, who's now got back-to-back wins over ranked opponents in the Bantamweight division. Okay, third biggest stock riser. People may not agree with me here. Again, this is more about context, but it's Aline Perez. Now look, going into this fight, she was just a slight favorite here. I don't think she wowed anyone with this performance. However, you look at the facts, she's on a nice win streak now in a division that really doesn't have a lot going on right now. She's, so you look at that 6-fight win streak. That's got to be one of the biggest ones in the division right now. Takes out a, pretty good fighter here in Macy Chasson, who, I saw some people on that dog side of that fight, but Chasson's just had a lot of issues with weight cutting and all that stuff too. But Perez gets the win. To me, this is more of a context picks as opposed to performance picks. Again, I think Perez is right up there for a title shot, I think. I know obviously everything's on pause with Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes, but she can't be far behind with that 6-fight win streak. So Aline Perez, third biggest stock riser on this card. Now, this is where most people would probably go with their third biggest stock riser, or maybe even higher, and that's King Green. Listen, King Green had one of the best performances I've seen in a long time. I can't remember. I guess the last finish he would have been Grant Dawson, I think. But he didn't look like a plus 315 underdog. These odds almost look flipped in this fight. And we'll talk about Zell Huber in a little bit. But King Green turning back the clock at 39 years old, taking out a prospect in Mexico, going out there and getting it done. The reason his stock's not higher is I just don't, despite how great King Green looked, what's sort of left for him in his career at this point? Yeah, he's got back-to-back victories now. But we've sort of seen when he gets those ranked opponents, doesn't tend to go too well. I think it helps his stock, but I just don't see Green going on any sort of crazy run despite getting this victory here. So I want to give him his props. He's getting in the honorable mention, but I think in terms of context, Aline Perez is in a better position than Bobby Green. I don't think that's a crazy take. I'm sure some people will take it that way, but huge win there for King Green. Okay, biggest stock dropper on this card. The thumbnail did not give it away, but it has to be Brandon Moreno. Again, had the full camp for this fight. This is in Mexico. Now he's lost a couple fights in a row, back-to-back fights. You go all the way back, he's lost, 4 of his last 6. That's tough for Moreno, who's 32 years old right now. Where does he go from here? You could make the argument that, hey, he had to switch up in opponents. Maybe that was too tough for him, but it looked like the division passed him by last night. That's what I was watching. I think there's too many fighters now that are getting better in the weight class, that are younger, that are faster, and I just didn't like the game plan here either from Brandon Moreno. It's just that thing where, I just would have liked to see a little bit more from him in terms of what he's able to sort of put out there. And I think that... it was one of those things where, I just think Moreno had an opportunity to rise to the occasion and he didn't. And credit to Kavanaugh, who definitely hurt Moreno in this fight. I think that's a big thing too, is kind of taking him out of his element. So Brandon Moreno, biggest stock dropper, because I don't know where he goes. And again, I don't think he's going to move up to 35. It's just tough to see where he belongs in this weight class. I mean, the UFC will keep him around because he's entertaining, but yeah, this was a tough loss there for Brandon Moreno, who's now lost back-to-back fights. Okay, second biggest stock dropper. This could be some people's biggest stock dropper. What was going on with Daniel Zellhuber last night? That was a bad loss. Again, 26, so you could maybe make the excuse, oh, he's a little bit younger and needs to figure things out. But this is a couple losses now. He's got 3 in a row. And he's been given kind of, I don't want to say he's been given a layup, but he's been given, easier opponents in terms of fighting veterans as opposed to fighting up-and-comers. The Michael Johnson fight, that's one where, again, like, should have looked better in that fight, and he was a huge favorite in that one, right? I think he was even bigger of a favorite than he was in this one. Yeah, he was minus 850 in that fight, and he ends up losing. So, Zellhuber's lost 3 in a row. Do they give him another fight? Probably because of his age and the fact that they keep going to Mexico, but he's got to figure this out. Like, he's not even losing to, like, good opposition in the weight class in terms of ranked opponents. He's losing to guys like Bobby Green, who, don't get me wrong, Bobby Green's done this before. He did this to Grant Dawson when Dawson was on his win streak. But and the fact he got finished here too, like, that's not a good look. I think that's the first stoppage loss he's had in his career. Huge stock drop for Daniel Zellhuber. I think anyone who thought this guy was going to be a force to be reckoned with in the weight class, you picked the wrong guy here. Daniel Zellhuber, definitely a stock dropper. And then third biggest stock dropper on this card, no one was really picking him to win or expecting him to win, but it's Chito Vera. And again, this is more of a context picks, where he's lost 4 in a row now. You could have made the excuse before that, okay, he lost to O'Malley, he lost to Figgy, who, guys that are high up in the weight class. I thought the Amin Zahabi fight was razor close, but now he's losing to David Martinez. And don't get me wrong, David Martinez looks like a guy to keep an eye on at 135, but you should probably beat a guy like this if you're going to be relevant in the bantamweight division. And I just don't know what Chito brings at this point. I think if you're going to keep him around, which I would assume they would, because he's a fan favorite, even with 4 losses, or maybe not, he's 33. Like, that sort of fits the age category of what the UFC is kind of getting rid of right now. Would I be shocked if they cut Chito Vera? Maybe a little bit, but we're seeing guys get cut for far less. If he does get another fight, though, I promise you it's going to be against a contender series guy or someone they're trying to build up. That's what you kind of do with And then last sort of honorable mention for the stock drop is Macy Chasson. And again, she was not favored to win this fight. If you look at it there, where's Macy Chasson? Sorry, my kid just came in. I don't know if you heard him. Hit that mute button as soon as I heard that. Yeah, she was a slight underdog, but I mean, what a fall from grace, because I remember when she beat Mayra Bueno Silva, there was talks about her fighting for the title. Now it's 3 losses in a row. I'm Macy Chasson's probably going to get released. Again, 34 years old, going to be 35 this year. I think that's probably it for her. This, to me, was a winnable fight. Doesn't pass the test. At least she made weight this time. But Macy Chasson, definitely a stock drop, because I don't think she'll be on the UFC roster come next week. So those are my picks for stock rise and stock drop for UFC Mexico City. Let me know in the comments what your 3 biggest stock risers, 3 biggest stock droppers are on this card. Would love to hear your picks. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.